Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to this week's video. I'm going to show you guys how to make a custom connector in SWOOD. This custom connector is a little tab that inserts into this backer panel and doesn't require screws or fasteners to hold it into place. So you have this panel with a little male extension to it that slots into this machining here. Basically slots right into place and then drops down just like so. So I'm going to show you guys how I made that in SWOOD. Stay tuned. To start off with, we're going to jump into our connectors tab library. And we're going to go ahead and right click and select edit. And we're going to find the place that we want to create this connector. And we're going to opt for a new, and we're going to come down to this custom connector here. So I'm going to rename this to tab 3. And I just went ahead and saved that just to, that way I don't lose any progress on it. So I'll probably go ahead, hit this green check mark. Do you want to save the library? I'm going to select yes, and then I'll come back in and edit that. So I want to show you guys kind of the orientation of this connector and how it relates to the orientation of my model. So when I'm looking at this little preview of my connector model, we have two panels here. We have our red panel and our yellow panel. So this red panel represents panel 1 and this yellow panel represents panel 2. And the way that my model is oriented here, if you guys can see that, I'll try to minimize this a little bit. This red panel is kind of representing this panel here, and then this yellow panel is representing this backer panel that I have here as well. So when you guys are looking at your model, you see that you have this little origin and with your axis preview here. And as I move the model around, that origin and axis points move along with it. So this little origin and where these axes orient are super important, because you want to make sure that your connectors that you insert are oriented in the right space. That way when you drop them in, they will be oriented the right way when you create your custom connector. And I'll show you what I mean. So I have three separate components that make up that little tab connector. One is the male part. One is also belongs to the male part, but it's actually a remove feature. And then finally, I have a remove feature for the backer panel. And I'll show you guys what I mean here. So I'm going to close out of this connector real quick. So this right here is the male part of the tab that we're going to be adding to panel 1. And as you could see, basically this is going to be mounted to the front of that panel edge, and we have some machining out for dog bones, so that way whenever we go and cut this on the CNC, we're not going to have any conflicting parts. And as you could see, this is a full routed circle, and this one is not. So that's where our remove feature for panel 1 comes into play, and I'll show you guys that now. So yeah, basically I did some calculations here, and this is our remove feature for that male tab feature there. Basically all it is just the remainder of the circle. So what it's going to be doing, it's going to be removing this little circle from that panel 1. And then finally we have our remove part for our backer panel. So this is basically the machining that's done, that when we create that tab connector, that male portion is going to be inserted into this void here. And we have to create like a physical part to represent that void. And when we create these parts, it's super important that our orientation of our part aligns with the orientation of our connector. A good real rule of thumb for me, I pay attention to these axis directions. So I typically want that y-axis pointed at me. And depending on which direction you want that feature, you have to pay attention to that x-axis. And then finally, z-axis should always be pointed up. So whenever I drop this feature into my connector, it's actually going to be oriented just like so, where the y-axis is pointed towards me, the x-axis is pointing down, and then the z-axis is pointing to the left, just like so. So I'll show you guys what I mean. So when I come in and I go to edit feature, and I'm going to add some of these features in. So I save these parts to my connector library, so I'll show you guys where that is. All right, so we're gonna start with that mail tab feature. So as you can see, I get a little preview of that part and what it's going to look like when I insert it into place. And also it shows me where my origin point is relative to my part. So I basically have a dead center of this little square profile here, and I have my part oriented with the x-axis pointed to the left, just the same as this. My y-axis pointed towards me, just the same as this, and then Z up. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this, and it's going to create a new body. So as you can see, I have my little connector there. Not quite done. There's a couple things that I need to do over here. So I'm going to rename it to start off with. I'm going to call this, we'll call it mail tab add. And this is for part number 1. When I switch this to part number 2, you can see that it turns yellow. So it's kind of a cool indicator that shows like which part it belongs to. I know that I want this to be an add feature for this red panel here, so I'm going to keep that for part 1. And then the action, I don't want to remove, I want this to be an addition. So I'm going to switch this from removed to added. And I'm going to go ahead, accept that change. You want to save, do you want to save library? Yes. So I'm going to jump back over to my little tab connector, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So I'm going to pull that tab 3, drag it over to my intersecting panels, and as you can see, boom, I have my little addition here. It's not quite finished. I have to finish this feature here, so that's going to be a remove feature for panel 1, and then finally I'm still missing the little machining on this back panel. So I'm going to jump back over to this connector and start adding those in. So mail tab add. So now I'm going to do add a new body, and this one is for the remove. I'm going to select, I'm going to double check the origin point so I can see that the origin is here. When I drop in that the origin for my connectors is actually just dead square in the middle of these two panels, so I know that since it's to the left over here, my little remove feature is going to be slightly to the left of the origin of these two connectors. So I'm going to go ahead, select checked on that, and I'm going to do m/tab, and we're going to do remove. I'll make this capital, just keep it consistent. This is still for part number 1, but instead of my action being added, I want that removed. I'm going to go ahead, accept that change, save to the library, and we're going to test out this connector here. So now I'm going to take that tab 3, drag it over to my intersecting panels, hide this panel, and as you can see, now my dog bone feature is completed. Remember before where it was only like a quarter of that circle there, but now that feature has been removed. And the reason that I have dog bones here is that way when it's machined on the CNC, I'm not going to have to do any chiseling to square these panels off. It'll just do the drilling there for me, so that way I don't have too much post-processing. So cool. There is that mail feature there, and that is actually all the components of the custom connector for this panel. So now I need to create one for this backer panel. So I'm going to come back over, select edit, and now I just need to add that final component. So I'm going to click on this little white page and I'm going to find my remove part, and that's this one here. Double click on it and I'm going to double check my origin, make sure it aligns with what I have here. So I have Z up, Y pointed towards me, X to the left, just the same. And now I'm going to accept that. I'm going to rename this and we're going to do this for female tab and we're going to call this remove. And so a couple different things that are changing here. This isn't going to be for part 1. This is actually going to be for part 2 because we want it to be applied to that backer panel. And then for action, we want that removed because we're going to be removing that void, not adding to that panel. So we'll go ahead, select check. Do you want to save the library? I'll select yes. We'll delete this connector and we're going to drag this tab over. And look at that, boom. We have that on that backer panel. That void has been machined out and it's looking like everything's oriented in the right direction. So yeah, we're to our final point here. When I go and change the transparency, we can see that that's looking the way that it should. That male connector is slotting into that female feature on the backer panel, so that way we don't have to use any screws to hold this panel up. Yeah, I hope you guys took something away from this video and stay tuned for next week's video. This is SWOOD with A-Rod. Catch you guys later. Peace.